So it's officially summer now, so I figured that we should probably cool off a bit by heading up to Alaska to check out the mini timeline of the short-lived 30 Days of Night series. These couple of films may have had a big impact at the time, but was their continuity tight? Or is it going to take like 30 days to figure this mess out?
Based on the comic series of the same name, 30 Days of Night was released in 2007 and takes place in the town of Barrow, located at the northernmost tip of Alaska. Because of its positioning, the town has what's known as a polar night, where the sun is invisible for 30 days. It is a real thing, although its depiction in the film isn't totally accurate. Michael's nephew is here, along with Deathstroke and remake Kathy Lutz, and soon after sundown, a pack of vampires arrive to kick things off. And Spacker Dave is with them, and he talks with a Cajun accent, indicating that he's from the southern region, possibly having cut a deal with the undead in order to take them up north. And pretty soon, they're laying waste to the town, led by the villainous Marlowe. The vamps here don't follow all the traditional rules since they don't need to be invited in, and instead of a pair of fangs, their mouths are lined with sharp teeth, and they speak in a language that was created specifically for the film. A nice big close-up of this license plate says that it expires in November of 2007, and since the polar sundown thing usually occurs in November or December, and I would think that this is something someone would take care of before being out of touch for a while, and the fact that this is a police vehicle, I mean, I want to think that they just renewed it, and that it's late 2006 here, and the plate expires the following year, but who knows. A small group of survivors, including this guy who you've seen in 300 movies, but don't know the name of without checking IMDb. And if you're looking for gothic romantic vampires,
this ain't it.
We see a week pass, and the vamps can be killed by beheading though, and then we jump to day 18 as the humans manage to stay hidden, but figure out that sunlight and UV will hurt them, and also find out that they can be turned into vampires by being bitten. And they finally get to day 27, so close to sunup. And then with one day left to go, the suckers decide to burn the town to the ground. So Eben injects himself with vampire blood and turns, and has a one-on-one with Marlowe, which he wins in a pretty, it's a sketchy effect. The sun starts to come up, so all the vampires just leave, and Eben and Stella share one final moment together in the sunrise. A momentary pause to actually go back before the film's release, earlier in 2007, as there was a 7-part miniseries entitled 30 Days of Night Blood Trails that ran on FearNet. It starts in New Orleans and is based on a subplot from the original comic that didn't make it into the actual film. This guy George has some vampire encounters, and they get into the vampire's computer server, and the date of 11/18/07 is revealed, and the date is said to be important, and it's eventually revealed that the event is the attack on Barrow, and that will occur tomorrow night. So this places this series and the original film in November of 2007, with it spanning to right around Christmas time then. That was followed by another miniseries released 1 year later in 2008, again on FearNet, with 6 short episodes, and Ted Raimi pops in, and George is back, and it is set 3 weeks after the Barrow attack. Since that film started on November 18th, lasted 30 days until around December 18th or thereabouts, 3 weeks after that would extend into January of 2008 now. Amanda Young pops in, as does Peter! And the vampires are still on the attack, and ends with George being turned and killed. The sequel skipped the theaters and went straight to video with 2010's 30 Days of Night Dark Days, which shows us the end of the first one again, but recasts Stella. She tells us that Barrow has been rebuilt, so some time has passed, and she says that she's been traveling for the past 10 months telling the story, so that would put this in 2008 around October. She also says last year, so yeah, it's less than 1 year later now, and she's joined by another group of survivors who are now hunting the vampires in LA, including Link and Johnny's ex-wife, and they say that there's a queen named Lilith, and then there's this vampire named Dane, who somehow has held on to his humanity and drinks from blood bags. Lilith is played by Mia Kirshner, and this movie's a pretty good example of the whole black guy dies first trope. And oddly, Katharine Isabelle, Ginger Snaps herself, is in this movie as a minor role of a captive girl that basically just screams and then dies. It's weird because the role is basically that of a featured extra, and Katharine was a pretty well established at this point, so it's strange to see her in so minor of a role. The vamps are headed to Alaska via boat to commence on another 30-day feeding frenzy, and after some battles, Stella manages to kill Lilith, really easily. The rest of the vampires just kinda let her go, and Stella, having learned that vampires can be restored if their heads are still intact, returns home and revives Eben, also recast, who then bites her, and that was it for the franchise. At least in terms of the film, as the comic series continued on in several additional series, including taking the vampires into space at one point, and also continued the adventures of vampire Eben and Stella. There's also a series of novels as well.
So there you have it. It's 2 movies that actually have a really solid timeline, even with those TV miniseries in between. And I think it's because these are based on pre-existing comic books that were already out there, and they were faithful to those books, which made the continuity flow a little bit better. And altogether, there weren't any big burps with the continuity or timeline in here. It worked out pretty well. And were they any good? The first one was really good. Really unique setting, that the snowy scenery and everything, very, very cool. I liked the characters, some great premises, very cool vampires, a lot to love in that first movie. The ending kind of ruins it a bit. It's just not a very good ending. Kind of just ends, which I think hurts the movie in the long run, but it's still a damn good flick. The second one is extremely forgettable. Once you take away that whole Alaska setting and the whole 30 Days of Night premise, it just becomes another vampire movie. And this one is not even really a memorable vampire movie. It's pretty standard stuff. But let me know what you thought of these down below. I want to know your opinions on the 30 Days of Night movies, if you would like to see more of them at some point in the future, or if you just are done with it because it's just vampires by this point. Let me know down below. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/movietimelines. These guys over here, they do subscribe to the Patreon, and they are my patrons, and I thank them because they are freaking awesome. And I want to thank you guys for watching the videos and sharing them out to your friends so other people can watch them as well too. I appreciate that very, very much, and I will see you very shortly for another good one. Thank you. Bye-bye.